The night had teeth. The cold did not just sit on the skin. It bit, it chewed, it held on. Snow fell in thick, heavy sheets over the moonlit clearing, turning the whole place into a bright, cruel stage. The moon hung high and white, watching like a silent judge. Wolves stood in circles, men and women in human form, shoulders straight, eyes sharp, breath steaming in the air. Power sat on them like extra skin. They wore good clothes, warm coats, polished boots. They looked like they belonged here. And in the center of it all, on her knees in the snow, was Mira. Her dress was ripped at the shoulder where the guards had grabbed her. Blood had soaked through the cloth and frozen, stiff against her skin. Her arms shook so badly that her fingers dug into the snow just to hold herself steady. Her hair, once brushed carefully for the mating ceremony, stuck to her cheeks in wet clumps. The wind pushed at her from all sides, as if the night itself wanted her gone. She felt every eye on her. Mira was the Omega, the lowest, the one everyone sent to do the jobs no one wanted. She was used to whispers behind her back, used to tired looks, used to being invisible when it mattered, and very visible when something went wrong. But this did not feel like normal shame. This felt like the whole world was looking at her and saying, "You do not deserve to breathe the same air as us." The Alpha stood in front of her, tall and hard like carved stone. His presence filled the clearing. Even when he did not move, people shifted around him, making room, bending without knowing they were bending. His coat was heavy, lined with fur. His boots did not sink deep into the snow the way hers did. Power sat in his voice even when he said nothing. Mira's shoulder throbbed where the guards had pushed her down. The pain was hot, but the night was so cold that the heat felt wrong, like a small fire trapped under ice. "You know why you are here," the Alpha said. His voice was not loud. It did not need to be. Every ear in the clearing caught the words. Mira heard them and felt them go straight past her skin, sliding deep into her chest. She did not answer. Her throat was too tight. The truth was, she did not fully understand. She only knew that one moment she had been standing at the edge of the mating ceremony circle, heart pounding, waiting for the moon to shine on the chosen pairs, and the next moment, hands had grabbed her, voices had yelled, and people had pulled back from her like she carried disease. Tainted. Wrong. Unfit. Words had hit her from all sides, and she could not even pin down who said which one. They had blended together into one big roar of hate. Now she knelt in front of the Alpha, snow burning her knees, heart beating so loud that it drowned out the wind. "She tainted the moon bond," someone from the crowd said. Mira heard the words like a slap. Her eyes snapped up before she could stop herself. She saw faces familiar, strange, angry, curious. Some looked away when her gaze touched them, as if meeting her eyes was too much. Others stared, lips curled, enjoying the show. Tainted the moon bond. That was not a small crime in their world. The mating ceremony was holy. Pairs chosen under the full moon were guided by fate, by something older and bigger than the pack itself. To say someone had ruined that, it was like saying they had spat in the face of the moon. Mira tried to swallow. Her mouth was dry. She wanted to say, "I did not do anything." She wanted to shout, "I only stood there. I only watched. I was not even close to anyone." But her voice stayed stuck inside her chest. Fear sat on it like a heavy rock. She remembered the moment it all changed. The moon had brightened, flooding the clearing with silver light. Everyone had grown quiet, waiting. That was when something warm had bloomed under Mira's ribs, spreading through her like a strange, gentle river. Her hands had tingled. Her vision had sharpened. For one breath, she had felt seen, not by the pack, but by something above them, something old. Then, before she could understand what was happening, the moonlight around her had flared. Someone had shouted. The wolves close to her had stumbled back. A guard had grabbed her arm so hard his fingers broke the skin. And now here she was. The Alpha looked down at her. His eyes were cold, like the snow, but there was something else in them too. Fear, maybe, or anger hiding fear. "You stood under the moon," he said. "You drew its light. You disturbed its choice." Mira's lips parted. I didn't." The nearest guard kicked snow into her face to shut her up. Ice-cold powder rushed into her nose and mouth. She coughed, choking, eyes watering. The crowd murmured, some disgusted, some pleased. "Look at her," someone whispered. "She should not be here. She was always strange. She should have been sent away years ago." Mira wiped her face with shaking fingers. Her tears froze almost as soon as they touched the air. She thought of the way she had always stood at the edges of everything, always just outside the circle, always last to eat, last to sleep, first to be blamed. She had accepted it, because that was what Omegas did. They walked with their heads down and their mouths shut, hoping not to be noticed. But tonight, the moon itself had noticed her. And now the pack wanted to erase her for it. The Alpha raised his hand. The murmurs died at once. "This pack will not keep a curse," he said. "The moon bond is sacred. Any wolf who twists its light will not share our ground, our food, or our future." The words rolled over Mira like another wave of snow. Curse. It sat in her chest like a stone. He turned slightly, so that everyone could see his face. "From this moment, Mira of the Red Hollow Pack is no longer one of us. She is banished." The word hung in the air. Banished. The sound of it was sharp and final. It did not leave room for hope. It did not leave room for questions. Mira's body went numb. The cold outside and the cold inside met and shook hands. Banished. There was a rule in their land. Wolves who were sent into the forest at night did not come back. The wild did not forgive the weak. The cold did not care about bloodlines or promises. Night in these lands was not just darkness, it was danger with claws and teeth. She tried again to speak. Her voice came out small. "Please." No one moved. Her eyes searched the crowd without meaning to. She looked for any sign of softness, a hand halfway raised, a lowered gaze, anything. But she found only backs straight with fear and faces hard with the need to stay safe. She saw wolves who had shared her food turn away so they would not feel guilty. She saw a woman who used to pat her head look down at her boots. She saw young ones, eyes wide, learning in this moment what happened to anyone who stepped out of their place. Farther back? A man who had once smiled at her quickly shifted his expression into a scowl when another wolf glanced his way. It hurt more than the cold did. It was suddenly so clear. No one would stop this. No one would stand by her. She did not belong to anyone anymore. The Alpha nodded to the guards. "Take her." They yanked her up by her arms. Pain exploded in her injured shoulder. She bit down on a cry, but a small sound escaped anyway, more breath than voice. Snow blurred under her feet as they dragged her toward the edge of the clearing. The pack parted like a living wall. People stepped aside, making a clear path, but no one reached out. No one touched her, not even to say goodbye. Mira's feet slipped on the ice. Her bare legs burned with cold. The ceremonial dress, meant to look pretty under moonlight, had never been meant for the deep snow at the border of the forest. Her teeth chattered so hard her jaw hurt. She felt eyes on her back, some heavy with judgment, some hot with hate, some blank. She wanted to hate them all. She wanted to scream that they would regret this. But beneath the anger, there was a strangely quiet question. What did I do? Why me? She had no answer. At the very edge of the clearing, where the packed snow gave way to wild ground and dark trees, the guards stopped. The forest loomed in front of them, tall and silent. The trees stood thick and close, their branches heavy with snow, their shadows long and black. This was the border. Everyone in the pack knew that once you crossed this line, you were not pack anymore. The rules did not follow you in there. No one came to help. No one searched your body if you did not return. One guard grabbed Mira's chin and forced her to look at the trees. "See?" he said softly, low enough that only she could hear. "This is where you belong, little curse, far away from the rest of us." His breath smelled like meat and smoke. She tried to pull her face away, but he held her still. The Alpha had followed them to the border. He did not step past it. He stood just inside the safe snow, hands behind his back, eyes on Mira as if she was already far away. "By the law of this pack," he said, "you are cast out. You do not sleep under our roofs. You do not drink our water. You do not carry our name. You are nothing to us now." The words settled on her shoulders, heavy and certain. He added, almost as an afterthought, "If you survive until dawn, it will be the forest's choice, not ours." The guards did not wait for more. They pushed her forward. Her bare feet hit deeper snow. It came up past her ankles, then to her shins. The cold reached up like hands, clawing its way into her bones. She stumbled, almost fell, but one of the guards shoved her again. "Go." She took a step, then another, then another. Her body did not feel like it belonged to her anymore. Her arms hung heavy, her fingers went numb, each breath cut her lungs. Behind her, the pack watched. No one called her name. No one said goodbye. Mira walked until the sounds behind her faded into the wind, until the soft crunch of her own steps in the snow was the only noise she could hear. The trees closed in around her, shadows thick and quiet. The light from the clearing grew smaller and smaller, until it was only a faint glow behind her, and then it was gone. The forest took her. The wind slipped between the trunks, making low, sad sounds. Branches creaked. Snow fell from high branches in soft thumps. Somewhere far away, a wolf howled, a real one, not in human skin. The sound slid under her ribs and reminded her how small she was out here. She hugged herself, but her arms were too tired to hold tight. Her shoulder burned with every move. The cut from the guard's fingers had reopened. She could feel warm wetness under the frozen cloth. Her mind tried to make plans. Find shelter, find a tree to hide under, keep moving to stay warm. Simple rules she had heard from older wolves. But her body did not want to listen. It wanted to lie down. It wanted to rest just for a moment. She told herself she would not die here. She would not let them win. She tried to picture herself walking through the forest at dawn, finding some safe spot, building a life far from their hard faces and cruel words. But every time she tried to imagine it, the cold cut through the picture and tore it apart. Her breath came in short bursts. The air felt thinner somehow, as if the night was slowly closing its hand around her throat. Snowflakes stuck to her eyelashes. She blinked them away, her vision blurred, then sharpened, then blurred again. It was hard to tell where the ground ended and the air began. Everything was white and gray and black. Her legs shook. She had not eaten much at the feast. Omegas did not get rich plates and full cups, they got what was left. Tonight she had been too nervous to swallow much of anything. Now her stomach twisted with empty pain. She lifted her head and looked up. The moon was still there, high above the branches, shining down through breaks in the leaves. Its light touched her face, cool and soft. For a second, it felt almost kind. "Why me?" she whispered into the air, her voice barely more than a breath. No answer came. The world did not pause. The snow did not stop. The trees did not lean in to listen, but something did shift. There, under her ribs, where the strange warmth had bloomed earlier at the ceremony, she felt a small flicker. It was faint, like the tiniest spark in a pile of ash. She almost missed it. Her body was freezing, but that small point inside her was not. It was warm, soft, but steady. She put a shaking hand over her chest, as if she could press closer to it from the outside. Her fingers were numb, she could barely feel her own skin. But she felt something else instead, like a faint heartbeat that did not belong to her heart. She looked around, sudden fear crawling up her spine. Was someone following her? Was something in the trees? But the forest was still. Only the wind moved. The warmth inside her pulsed again. Mira swallowed. Maybe she was just dying. Maybe this was what it felt like when your body started to give up cold outside, heat inside, everything out of balance. Maybe this was nothing special at all. And yet, at the edge of her vision, Just for a second, the snow around her looked different. The whiteness picked up a soft, gold tint, like someone had spilled a little sunlight into the night. It faded as quickly as it came. If she had blinked at the wrong time, she would not have seen it. Her legs buckled. She fell to her knees. The impact knocked the breath out of her. The snow rushed up cold against her thighs, her hands, her chest. Her shoulders curled forward on their own, trying to protect her from a world that would not stop hitting. She stayed there, on her knees in the deep snow, head hanging. Her hair fell around her face, heavy and wet. Each breath hurt more than the last. Her fingers dug into the frozen ground but could not hold much. They were too stiff. She thought of the pack, of the alpha's flat eyes, of the children watching, learning that one night could decide if you were worth anything. She thought of the moment the moonlight had brightened around her like it had seen her and decided to reach down. Had that been a mistake? Had she stepped into something she was never meant to touch? Or had someone lied? Her thoughts were slow now, heavy. They moved through her head like thick mud. She could not hold on to any of them for very long. Her eyelids drooped. "Rest," her body begged. "Just a little. Just a few breaths. The snow is soft. The night is quiet. Lie down. Stop fighting. No one is coming for you. No one cares." The warmth under her ribs pulsed again, stronger this time. It spread out in thin lines, like cracks of light in dark glass. For a heartbeat, she felt her limbs again. She felt the pain, the cold, all of it, sharp and real. Her eyes opened wider. The forest looked the same, yet something was not the same at all. Her vision sharpened, as if a thin fog had lifted. She could see each snowflake in the air, each line on the bark of the trees. She could hear things she had not noticed before: the soft scurry of a small animal under the snow, the distant creak of ice, the slow, steady beat of her own heart fighting to keep going. And then it happened. Mira's head lifted. Her eyes, dull with cold a second before, flashed. Not silver, not the normal yellow of pack wolves. Gold. A soft, faint gold, like the first light of morning far beyond the hills. It flickered once, then again, steadier. For those few seconds, the snow right in front of her reflected that light, turning the white ground into a pale, glowing sheet. There was no one there to see it. No council, no alpha, no cruel crowd. Only the trees, only the wind, only the deep, wild night. But the forest felt it. The wind changed direction, blowing hard for a heartbeat, as if shocked. Branches shifted overhead, dropping fresh snow around her in a tight circle. The air pressed in, listening. Mira did not know what her eyes were doing. She only knew that she suddenly felt not alone. Something huge and old and quiet stirred under the frozen earth, like a giant wolf rolling in its sleep. The gold light in her gaze flickered again. Then, as quickly as it had come, it dimmed. Her eyes slipped back to normal. Her head drooped forward. The warmth under her ribs faded to a small spark once more. Her body could not hold on anymore. She tipped sideways and fell fully into the snow. The cold welcomed her like open arms. It wrapped around her legs, her waist, her arms, her face. Her cheek pressed into the icy ground. Her breath came in thin, weak puffs. Each exhale left a small cloud of white in the air above her lips. Each inhale seemed to bring in less and less. She stared at nothing. She did not have the strength to cry. Above her, the moon watched through the cracks in the branches. Its light lay on her like a soft hand, as if trying to keep her here just a little longer. Her fingers twitched once. Her chest rose and fell, slower each time. From far away, carried by the wind, a wolf howled again. The sound slid over the snow, through the branches, and reached the small, still shape lying on the ground. Mira heard it, somewhere deep in her fading mind. Her eyes did not open this time. But under her closed lids, just for one last second before the darkness pulled her under, there was a tiny glow, a faint gold spark. A hint, no more than that inside this broken, freezing Omega, something powerful was sleeping. And the night, unknowingly, had just been asked to decide whether to kill it or let it wake. The night held her like a fist. Mira lay in the snow, half buried, half awake. The cold pressed on her from every side. Her body felt very far away, like it belonged to someone else. The small gold spark under her ribs flickered once, then sank deep. Darkness moved in around her mind. But before it swallowed her, it pulled her backward. Not forward to her future. Backward. To the moment everything started to break. The music from the drums had still been echoing in the clearing. Lanterns swung from tall poles, throwing warm light on happy faces. Wolves laughed and talked. Young men fixed their collars. Girls smoothed their dresses. The mating ceremony always began the same way, hope floating in the air, everyone wondering if tonight the moon would pick them. Mira had stood at the edge of the crowd, fingers twisted together behind her back so no one would see them shake. Her dress was plain but clean. She had stitched it herself, late at night after chores, using scraps no one wanted. It fit a little tight at the shoulders, a little loose at the waist, but it was hers. That had been enough. She told herself she was only there to serve. Omegas poured drinks. Omegas carried plates. Omegas cleaned when others were done. They did not stand in the front where the moonlight fell thickest. They did not wait to be chosen. Still, a quiet part of her had looked up at the sky and whispered a small wish. Just once, she wanted the moon to see her. The Alpha and the Elder Council sat on a raised stone platform, old faces, lined with power. They wore heavy cloaks and rings with the pack mark. Beside them stood Selene. Selene was everything Mira was told she could never be. Tall, graceful, with a wolf that moved under her skin even when she was human, making her eyes flash bright silver. Her dress shone with beads that caught the light like stars. She was the Alpha's chosen female, the one everyone said would stand at his side, carry his offspring, lead the pack's women. She knew she was important. It showed in every step she took. The drums stopped. The Alpha lifted his hand. The clearing grew still. The moon climbed higher. Tonight, the head elder called out, we honor the bond of the moon. Those fated will be shown. Those unworthy will be passed by. The crowd hummed. People shifted, shoulders brushing, eyes shining. The moonlight grew brighter, slow and steady, as it often did on these nights. It poured into the clearing in cool waves. It touched hair, skin, eyes. It rolled over the circle of wolves like soft water. Mira watched from the side, half hidden behind a stone pillar. Her heart beat harder as the light thickened. She had seen this so many times, watching others. She knew how it went. Some wolves would step forward without meaning to, pulled by something they could not see. Their wolves would whine inside, recognizing their match. The air would taste strange and sweet. Usually, that sweetness stayed far away from her. But tonight, the moonlight brushed over her like a hand. It did not just pass on, it stopped. It wrapped around her shoulders, her arms, her face. The air seemed to hold its breath. Mira's chest tightened. A warmth slipped under her ribs. Small at first, then bigger, filling her like liquid light. Her skin tingled. Her vision sharpened. The sounds around her went soft, like cotton in her ears, leaving only the beat of her own heart. For the first time in her life, she felt seen. Not by the Alpha, not by the pack, by something above them all. Her foot shifted forward without her telling it to. Her body leaned into the light as if it were calling her. Her wolf, quiet for so long, pushed against her bones, startled and hopeful. Then Selene saw her. Selene's mouth, which had been curved in a practiced smile, froze. Her eyes, already bright, hardened. She followed the path of the light and realized it did not sit only on her, the chosen female. It was sharing. It was touching an Omega at the edge. Selene stepped toward Mira with slow, careful anger, her heels sinking only shallowly into the snow, as if even the ground did not dare pull at her. Look at that, she said, loud enough for those nearby to hear. The moon is confused. Heads turned. The light still lay on Mira like a thin cloak. She felt it shake as fear flooded her. She wanted to step back into the shadows, to hide, to pretend this was not happening, but her legs would not move. Celine reached her, eyes running over Mira from head to toe like she was a stain. "What are you doing in the light, Omega?" Celine asked. "This place is not for you." Mira opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She knew she should say something, anything. That it did not hurt anyone if the moon brushed her for a moment. That she had not stepped into the center. She had not tried to steal anything. But all she could feel was the heat in her chest and the ice in her throat. Celine turned to face the crowd, raising her voice. "Everyone, look," she called. "The pack's little pet thinks she belongs in the moon's circle." Laughter rippled through the clearing, first a few quiet giggles, then more, building. Mira heard the sound and felt each one as a small stone thrown at her. "Worthless," someone muttered from the side. "Wolfless Omega? Maybe the moon pities her," another said. "Pack filth standing where she should not," Celine added, smiling now that the crowd was with her. The words landed on Mira's shoulders, heavy and hot. She wished she could shrink herself down small enough to slip into a crack in the stone floor and disappear. The elder council watched, eyes sharp. The head elder, a man with white hair and a mouth like a thin line, frowned as if something sour had been placed in front of him. "She should not react to the light at all," he said. "We tested her blood." That caught more attention. People's murmurs shifted. Curiosity mixed with disgust. The elder raised his voice. "For those who do not know, we checked her DNA months ago. No bond markers, no mate, no strong wolf, nothing. Unbonded." The word hung in the air like a bad smell. Unbonded. In a pack where everyone lived for the chance to be called by the moon, being unbonded was almost worse than being dead. It meant the path was closed. No fated mate, no blessed joining. A life alone at the bottom. Celine laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "Did you all hear that?" she asked the crowd. "The little unbonded wants to stand in the moonlight with the rest of us." She stepped closer to Mira, until they were almost nose to nose. Her perfume, sweet and strong, crawled into Mira's nose and turned her stomach. Celine's voice dropped, meant for the crowd and for Mira both. "You have no wolf anyone wants, no mate coming, no future. You clean our mess, Omega. That is your place." Mira clenched her hands behind her back, nails digging into her own palms to stop the shaking. Her wolf stirred weakly inside, hurt and small. A boy Mira had grown up with pushed to the front. He had once shared a loaf of bread with her when they were children. Tonight his face held only sharp edges. He spat at her feet. "Stay where you belong," he said. Another joined. Then another. Wet spots dotted the snow around her boots. Each one was a mark saying, "You are less, you are nothing." Her chest burned. She lifted her head and searched the faces beyond Celine, past the circle of laughing mouths and bright eyes, hoping for one solid thing to hold on to. She found her father. He stood near the back, not close enough to be pulled into the front, not far enough to be innocent. His hair had grown more gray since she was little. His shoulders slumped more now from years of hard work. There had been times, rare and quiet, when he had slipped her an extra piece of meat or covered for her when she was late with a chore. She had always told herself, he cares, even if he does not show it. Now his eyes touched hers. She waited. Maybe his brow would pinch with worry. Maybe his hand would lift, even just a little. Maybe he would step forward and say, "Enough." His face closed instead. He looked away. It was slow, not sharp or angry, which made it worse. It was a soft turn of the head, a gentle pulling back of his gaze, as if he was turning down a lamp before sleep. Simple, final. Something inside Mira cracked. It did not make a loud sound. It was quiet, like thin ice giving way under a boot. The elder spread his hands. "You see?" he said, unbonded, yet somehow she pulls the moon's eye. "This is wrong. It is a mistake. It must be corrected. Celine stepped back, letting the elders and Alpha step in front again. Their bodies formed a wall between Mira and the rest of the pack. She could still feel eyes on her, though. Hundreds of them. Watching, judging, enjoying. The Alpha's mouth was a hard line. He did not look confused. He did not look kind. He looked annoyed. "The ceremony is sacred," he said. "We will not let an unstable Omega stain it." He nodded to the guards. "Remove her." Hands grabbed Mira's arms. The warm light around her chest trembled as panic shot through her. She tried to speak, to explain, to say that she had not moved into the circle, that the light had come to her, that she did not understand any of this. But her voice tangled with fear and came out thin and broken. No one listened. The guards pulled her past Celine. Celine watched her go with a small, victorious smile, chin high, shoulders relaxed. For her, this was over. The pest was being swept out. The light could return where she believed it belonged. The moonlight, which had hugged Mira moments before, slipped away as the guards dragged her out of the main circle. It flowed back to the center, where Celine stood waiting. It climbed her shoulders, kissed her hair, made her beads shine brighter. The crowd sighed in relief, as if the world had snapped back into its right shape. In that moment, Mira understood. They would rather believe the moon had made a mistake than accept that it might have chosen to touch an Omega. And if the pack believed the moon had made a mistake, then they would make her pay for it. The memory ended there, hard and sudden, like a door slamming. The snow under Mira's cheek in the forest was not lantern-lit now. It was dark and rough and real. The warmth from the memory was gone. Only the real cold remained. Her body lay twisted, half-buried. The faint gold spark under her ribs burned low but refused to die. The forest was quiet, then not. A sound cut through the air. Not the clean, distant howl of a hunting wolf, not the soft rustle of small animals. This was a raw, broken cry, a wolf's voice filled with pain. It dragged across her mind like a sharp hook. It reached into the darkness, swallowing her, and tugged. Her eyes snapped open. For a moment she did not know where she was. The trees leaned over her like tall strangers. The snow pressed against her limbs. Her whole body screamed for rest. Then the sound came again. An agonized howl, closer this time. Mira's heart jerked. Her wolf, weak but still alive, lifted its head inside her with a whine. She did not owe anyone anything. The pack had thrown her away. They had spit on her and turned their backs. The forest would be glad to finish what they started. She could stay here. Let whatever was out there cry alone. Let the night take them both. But the sound came again, and this time there was something in it she could not ignore, a strange mix of rage and fear, like someone strong brought low against their will. Her fingers dug into the snow. She pushed. Her muscles argued with her. Pain lit her shoulder. Her legs shook, but she rolled onto her stomach and dragged herself forward. Then again, and again. Each move stole breath from her chest. The cries grew louder as she crawled. The air changed too. The sharp smell of smoke and burnt earth slid into her nose, fighting with the clean cold of the snow. She reached a break in the trees and stopped. The ground in front of her had been torn open. Snow was melted away in a wide circle, leaving a blackened patch of dirt and rock. At the center of it lay a wolf. He was huge, larger than any wolf she had seen in their pack. His fur, where it was not burned, was dark as night, with streaks of deep steel gray. Snow hissed when it touched the hot places around him. His sides heaved, pulling in ragged breaths. Silver metal shards stuck out of his body. Not little specks, long, cruel pieces, some as thick as her thumb, glowing faintly with the poison that hurt their kind. They were embedded in his shoulders, his flank, along his neck. Each breath made them shift, cutting deeper. Around him, the earth looked like it had exploded. Scorch marks spread in all directions. Small bits of twisted metal lay scattered, shining dully. An explosion trap. Mira knew them from whispers. Weapons meant for assassins, for traitors, for important targets. You did not use such things on common wolves. They were meant to kill someone who mattered. The wolf in the crater mattered. He lifted his head, just a bit. His eyes opened to thin slits. They were not pack eyes. They were a deep, cold blue she had only seen in storybooks about the Northern Kingdom. The rival realm her pack leaders always cursed. The one they warned pups about. The enemy. Her heart thudded unevenly. A rogue, her pack would say. But rogues did not carry power like this. A symbol hung, half burned, from a chain tangled in his fur. A crest marked into the metal, a crown split by a claw of ice. The sign of the royal line. He was not a rogue. He was a prince. The heir of the kingdom her pack planned to destroy. Fear and old lessons crashed through her mind. The alpha's voice from meetings she had poured tea at, not meant to listen, but always hearing. The northern royals are monsters. They will tear us apart if they rise again. Kill any you find. Her hand pressed into the snow. Her body shook. This was the moment she was supposed to turn around, crawl away, leave him for the cold and the poison and whatever wild creatures came next. He was the enemy. He was everything her pack had told her to fear. The prince let out a low, broken sound. His body tried to curl around the worst shard, but there were too many. Blood stained the snow dark. His breaths were shorter now. Mira stared at him. She thought of the guards dragging her, of Celine's smile, of spit hitting the snow around her boots, of her father turning his face away. She thought of how it felt when no one came. Something inside her refused to let her do the same to him. Her body moved before her fear could stop it. She slid down the edge of the crater, snow turning to mud under her hands. The heat near his body hit her like a wall. The silver shards gave off a dull, ugly shine. Up close, the damage looked worse. Blisters and burns mark his fur where the blast had hit. Blood soaked everything. The smell of silver poison made her stomach flip. Her hands hovered over him, shaking. She had no tools, no herbs, no gloves, no plan. Only one fact sat in front of her. If the silver stayed inside him, he would die. It would poison his blood, slow and cruel. Her own fear suddenly did not matter. She reached for the first shard. Her fingers brushed the metal. It burned. Pain shot up her arm like lightning, sharp and hot. Her skin sizzled on contact. Every instinct screamed at her to let go. She gritted her teeth and wrapped her hand around the shard anyway. Her palm burned. The smell of her own skin cooking hit her nose. Tears sprang to her eyes. She pulled. The shard resisted. The prince's body jerked. A low, raw growl tore out of his throat. "Sorry," she whispered, though he might not hear, might not understand. She put her other hand on the bloody fur to steady herself and pulled again. The shard slid out with a wet sound. Silver poison bit into her skin. It felt like fire mixed with ice, racing along her veins from her palm up her arm. She almost dropped the metal, but forced her fingers to unclench only when she could fling it away. It landed in the dirt with a harsh clink. Her hand shook, red and blistering. She did not stop. Another shard stuck near his ribs. She grabbed it. The burn was worse this time, hitting already damaged skin. White flashed behind her eyes. Her knees buckled, but she held on and yanked. It came free. Her breath came in harsh gasps now, matching his. Their pain lined up, two jagged lines on the same page. Blood ran over her fingers, hot and thick. The snow at their knees turned dark. She tore out a third shard, a fourth. Her hands were ruined. Blisters burst, skin peeled. The poison slipped into every small cut, every raw patch. Her arms shook so hard she could barely see. Still, she reached for the worst one, the long piece buried deep in his shoulder near the neck, dangerously close to where life pulsed strongest. This one would be hard. This one might kill him if it stayed. She wrapped both hands around it. Agony exploded up both arms at once, bright and blinding. It felt like her bones lit up. She bit down on a scream so hard she tasted blood in her mouth. Her back curved, her muscles shook like stretched wire. She pulled. Her burned skin stuck to the metal. For a second, nothing moved. The prince's eyes flew open, blue, wild, shocked. They stared straight at her, sharp even through the pain. His wolf saw her omega dress, her burned hands, her small frame. Enemy, omega, nobody. But she did not stop. She pulled again, every bit of weight in her small body thrown into it. The shard tore free. The prince's whole body jerked, then sagged. Blood poured from the wound for a breath, then slowed. The world narrowed for Mira. Pain roared in her ears. Silver raced through her veins like tiny knives. Her fingers refused to open, still clenched as if the shard was there even after she flung it aside. Her breath hitched. Her heart stumbled. Then, something strange happened. The prince's blood, hot and thick, ran down his shoulder and over her shredded hands. Her own blood, burning from the silver, mixed with his in the cuts and cracks of her skin. Their blood touched. Her pulse jumped, sharp. For one heartbeat, the world went very still. The wind quieted. The trees seemed to lean closer. Even the sharp smell of smoke faded under a different scent, something like storm air before rain, sharp and clean and wild. Her heart and his matched for a moment. 1, 2, 1, 2. Not separate, together. The small gold spark under her ribs flared. It shot out in thin lines through her chest, her arms, her legs. It rushed toward her hands where their blood had joined. For a second, her burned skin glowed from inside, soft and bright. Her veins lit up, not red, gold. The silver poison running through her met the gold light and shuddered. It did not spread. It twisted. It burned back on itself, curling like smoke before a strong wind. Heat flooded her. Not the cruel heat of burning skin. A different heat, deep, powerful, fierce. Her wolf, weak for so long, roared inside her chest, wide awake. Old stories she had heard as a pup when no one thought she was listening flashed in her mind. Tales of a wolf with storm in her blood. Of golden veins that could burn poison. Of a creature the moon made when war had gone on too long. The storm wolf. A myth, they had said. A story to scare or comfort children, depending on who told it. Mira's blood glowed brighter. In the reflection of the prince's wide blue eyes, she saw her own for a second. Gold. Not faint this time. Bright. She had been thrown into the forest to die as a useless omega, wolfless, unbonded, kneeling in a crater of burnt earth, hands ruined, breath shaking, blood joined with an enemy prince. She was now something else. She was not wolfless. She was the storm wolf. And the Alpha War had just found its key. In the girl they had tried to erase. The gold light inside Mira dimmed just enough for her to breathe, but the heat of it still trembled through her veins. The prince lay slumped in the crater beside her, alive but barely. Snow drifted down in soft flakes, landing on his fur, melting instantly from the warmth of his wounds. Then the air changed. It did not move at first. It held. Like the whole forest paused. Then a deep rumble rolled across the ground, quiet at first, then louder, then close enough that the snow around the crater shook. The trees on the far edge of the clearing bent under the force of a sudden wind. A massive shadow stepped out of the storm. He was tall enough that the branches above him bent aside. His coat was black, lined with thick northern fur. Snow slid off him as if afraid to touch him. His shoulders were broad, his presence heavy like the night sky itself had decided to take human form. His eyes, sharp and glowing faint silver, locked on Mira. King Kael, the Alpha King of the Northern Realm. Feared, unmatched. A wolf no one challenged unless they wished for death. He looked at the broken body of the prince, his brother, then at the tiny girl kneeling beside him, burned hands glowing faint gold against the dark fur. Shock flickered over his face, but it was not weak. It was sharp, cutting, alive. He had expected to find a corpse. He had expected to find blood and silence. Instead, he found an Omega girl, shaking, exhausted, shielding royalty with her own body. A nobody. doing what the strongest soldiers had failed to do. Kale stepped into the crater. Snow hissed under his boots. The storm curled behind him like a living thing, responding to his power. Mira tried to lift her head, but her neck felt too heavy. The gold spark inside her fluttered in warning, her vision blurred at the edges. Kale knelt. He did not kneel like someone lowering himself gently. He knelt like someone who had been punched in the chest by fate itself. He studied her burned hands, the blood on her arms, the stubborn way she held herself upright even as her body collapsed piece by piece. "This girl," he whispered. Not in fear, in awe. He reached forward slowly, as if touching a dangerous creature. He took her hand gently, almost carefully, and turned it palm up. The gold veins under her skin glowed faintly. His wolf, buried deep inside him, answered instantly. "Mate." The word tore through him like a crack of thunder. His breath froze in his chest. His grip tightened around her hand before he could stop himself. He dropped her hand as if burned. "No," he muttered. "Impossible." He looked at her face half hidden by wet hair, pale from cold, eyes half lidded but still alive. A girl his enemies had thrown away. A girl his own council would call filth. A girl whose blood glowed with the power of old legends. His wolf growled again inside him. "Mate." Kael clenched his jaw until it hurt. He refused the word, shoved it back, locked it away in the deepest place inside him. He could not afford this. Not here. Not now. Not with her. But even as he denied it, something in him shifted. He could not leave her. She swayed where she knelt, breath stumbling. The gold under her skin flickered weakly. Kael reached forward and caught her before she fell. Her small frame folded into his arms as if she had been waiting for someone strong enough to hold her up. She weighed almost nothing. Her skin was ice cold, her pulse thin and trembling. The moment he lifted her, the storm reacted. Wind exploded outward, snow flew in sharp spirals. The trees bent again, harder this time. Thunder rolled through the clouds, though there was no lightning yet. Her power answered his power. Their bond, unwanted, unasked for, stirred the sky. Kael held her tighter, shielding her from the wind. The prince groaned softly. Kael looked at him, jaw hardening, then back at Mira. He stood with her in his arms, her head resting against his chest. Her burned hands dangled at her sides. Her hair clung to his coat. "Who are you?" he whispered. But she was already unconscious. He carried her out of the crater, the storm following him like a loyal beast. Mira woke to warmth. Real warmth. Thick blankets. A soft bed. The smell of herbs and firelight. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking at the bright ceiling above her. The room was huge, high stone walls, carved pillars, large windows with frost clinging to the corners. Everything looked too clean, too grand, too far from anything she had ever known. She tried to sit up. Pain shot up her arms. Her hands were wrapped in clean bandages. The memory of silver burning her skin flashed through her mind. Then she remembered the prince. She jolted upright, ignoring the pain. Before she could move further, the door burst open. A group of elders entered, their robes thick and decorated with the symbols of high rank. Their faces were stiff with anger and suspicion. Behind them walked Kael. The room bowed slightly when he stepped in, though no one meant to. Power changed the air around him. It made the torches burn steadier. His eyes found Mira immediately. The council crowded around her bed like vultures. "Why is she here?" one snapped. "She is an enemy Omega," another hissed. "She could be a spy," a third added. "A trap sent to murder the royal heir." Mira's throat tightened. She pulled the blanket closer, feeling small and outnumbered. Kael said nothing at first. He watched her, eyes unreadable, jaw set. The elders continued. "She must be removed from the palace. She brings danger. She touched royal blood without permission. She should be executed." Mira's breath caught. Executed. Her heart thudded painfully. Kael finally moved. In one step he placed himself between her and the council, blocking their view of her entirely. "No one touches her," he said. His voice was calm, but beneath the calm, lay still. The elders fell silent. Kael continued, low and sharp. She saved the prince's life. When my warriors failed, when silver traps nearly killed him, she fought with her bare hands. The council shifted, frowning, not liking the truth but unable to deny it. And, Kael added, her blood awakened a power the North has not seen in centuries. A murmur rippled through the room, fear, shock, disbelief. The eldest council member stepped forward. You think she is the one from the prophecy? The storm wolf? Kael's jaw tightened. I do not think, he said. I know. The elders looked at Mira as if seeing her for the first time. Not as dirt, not as a nobody. As a threat. As a weapon. As something dangerous enough to unbalance kingdoms. Kael noticed their looks. He stepped closer to the bed, shoulders tense, eyes colder now. If any of you plan to harm her, he said, know that I will kill you before you reach her. Silence hit the room. The council left with stiff backs and narrowed eyes. But their fear did not fade when the door closed. It lingered. It waited. The days that followed were heavy. Mira could barely walk at first. Her hands healed slowly. But the gold light did not leave. It pulsed faintly under her skin when she breathed. It hummed when she touched the window or stood near running water. Kael saw everything. He assigned her guards not to trap her, but to keep assassins out. Rumors twisted through the palace like smoke. Stormwolf. Enemy Omega. Royal threat. Some wanted to use her. Some wanted her dead. Kael trained her himself. Not because he wanted to. Because he did not trust anyone else with her power. Her wolf was unstable. When she shifted halfway, lightning cracked under her skin. Her feet left small, static burns on the training floor. Her breath stirred small gusts of wind. Sometimes she cried in frustration, shoulders shaking, hands curled at her sides. I don't belong here, she whispered more than once. I'm just an Omega. Kael always watched her quietly when she said that. Then he answered, not gently but honestly, you survived exile. You saved a prince. You awakened a power older than kingdoms. Stop calling yourself less. She listened, but did not believe him yet. Kael believed it more than she did. And that terrified him, because every time she lost control, his wolf reached for her. Every time she stumbled, he stepped forward before thinking. Every time she looked at him with doubt and hurt and softness in her eyes, something inside him cracked open. She was becoming stronger, dangerous, unavoidable. And fate had tied their threads together long before either of them knew it. One night, after a long training session that left her shaking and breathless, she collapsed onto the floor, tears slipping down her cheeks. Kael knelt beside her not as a king, not as a warrior, but as someone who saw her breaking and could not walk away. Mira, he said quietly, your mother was a Stormwolf queen. You are not a mistake. You are not a curse. Her breath caught, her eyes lifted slowly. He wiped a tear from her cheek with the back of his knuckle. You were hidden to keep you alive, he said. And now that you are awake, the world will change. Her heartbeat tripped. His wolf pushed inside him, whispering again, mate. Kael looked away sharply, jaw clenching. He would not say it. She could not hear it. Not yet. But she felt something in the silence between them. Something waiting. Growing. Mira had entered the palace as a trembling outcast. Now she stood on the edge of something vast. A power that could save kingdoms. Or destroy them. And Kael was the only one strong enough to stand beside her. And the only one terrified of what that meant. Thousands filled the great summit hall, alphas, betas, elders, warriors, every rank from every rival clan. Torches burned along the walls, throwing long shadows that shook with tension. Thick stone pillars rose into the high ceiling, carved with the history of ancient wars. The air smelled of wet fur, cold wind, and fear. Everyone whispered the same two words, Stormwolf. The northern guards stood strong at the front, but the noise in the hall pulsed like a living thing. Everyone waited for the trial. Everyone wanted to see the girl who was said to hold the sky in her blood. And then her old pack entered. Mira was dragged behind them in chains. The metal cuffs cut into her wrists. Her steps were uneven. The wolves who once shared her childhood yanked the chains harder with every stumble. She did not cry. She did not beg. She simply watched the floor, breath tight, every muscle locked. Celine walked at the front, her chin high, her smile stretched too wide, full of triumph she thought she had earned. "Look at her," Celine said loudly, voice smooth like poisoned honey. "The traitor, the girl who betrayed her own kind." Gasps moved across the hall, murmurs rose like waves hitting stone. Mira felt hundreds of eyes digging into her. Some confused, some angry, many hungry for a show. She kept her gaze down because the hurt inside her still lived like a bruise that never healed. Her former alpha stepped forward. "She is dangerous," he shouted. "She sought to destroy us all. She used forbidden power and brought war upon our lands. Kill her now, before she destroys more." The crowd roared in confusion. Celine smirked. Her father smirked. Her childhood bullies smirked. They all believed they were about to win. And then, the wind changed sharp and cold. KL entered the hall. The noise died instantly. He walked with a calm that held the room by the throat. His armor was dark, trimmed in silver. His steps echoed in the silence, steady as a heartbeat. His eyes cut through the crowd until they found Mira. Something inside him shifted again, quiet but fierce. Her chains rattled as she was dragged forward. Celine shoved her to her knees so hard Mira's breath punched out of her chest. Celine leaned close, whispering where only Mira could hear. "You die here." Before Mira could blink, KL's voice rose across the hall. "Release her." The hall froze. Celine laughed lightly. "She is a..." KL's voice hit like thunder. "Release her." Even the stone pillars seemed to tremble. Her old alpha hesitated, then sneered. "She belongs in chains." KL stepped forward, 1 step, 2, 3, every wolf in the hall backing away without realizing it. He stopped beside Mira. His cape brushed the snow dust from her hair. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharper than claws. He spoke again, softer but heavier than before. "Let them see who they tried to bury." Mira's breath caught. Her chains fell open with a sharp metallic snap. No one touched them. They simply broke, as if the metal itself understood it was unworthy to restrain her. She pushed herself to her feet, slow, shaking, but determined. Her old pack stared as if seeing a ghost rise. Celine's smile cracked. Mira lifted her head. Her eyes glowed white. Not pale, not faint. Bright. Alive. Ancient. A hush swept the hall like a sudden winter wind. The torches flickered. The air thickened. Her heartbeat echoed through the stones beneath her feet. Storm winds burst from nowhere, swirling around her in tight circles. They ruffled her hair, lifted the ends of her clothes, and howled through the hall with a warning older than any kingdom. Wolves fell back, some tripping, some gasping. Lightning cracked the sky outside so bright it lit the hall through the windows. The Elder Council screamed over the noise. "The prophecy! The storm wolf rises! The one who commands the sky!" Mira's wolf form pushed forward. Her bones shifted, not painfully, but like her body had been waiting its whole life to do this. Her skin glowed white, light spilling from her arms, her shoulders, her chest. Her wolf emerged massive, pure white, glowing like a moon caught in a storm. Wind wrapped around her fur. Her paws sparkled with charged air. Her teeth glinted like living lightning. Celine's legs buckled. She crumpled to the floor, eyes rolling back. Her former alpha dropped to his knees, his voice cracking. "Please have mercy." Mira walked toward him, her wolf towering above him, storm winds swirling at her sides. Her eyes burned with the truth she had carried alone for too long. She stopped inches from him. Her voice, wolf and human layered together, filled the hall. "You rejected me." The winds roared louder. But the moon chose differently. The hall erupted. Thousands watched as every wolf who had ever mocked her, hurt her, or cast her aside fell to their knees without being asked. No one commanded them. Her power did. The heat between Mira and Kael came after the summit, quiet at first. He tried to push distance between them. He told himself she was too important, too fated, too dangerous for him to want. But the mate bond had already rooted itself deep. Every time she walked past him, his wolf growled softly. Every time she touched something, storms shivered. Every time she looked at him with those gold-flecked eyes, something inside him broke and healed at the same time. When her first true heat hit, she collapsed in the training yard, breath shaking, skin hot, hands trembling. Kael caught her before she hit the ground. She pressed her forehead to his chest, breathing hard. What is happening to me? He closed his eyes, his voice rough. Your wolf is calling to mine. Make it stop, she whispered, scared. I can't. He held her tightly, fighting a losing battle with himself. His wolf pushed to the surface. His heartbeat thundered. His hands shook with the need to protect, to claim, to keep. Kael lowered his head until his forehead rested against hers. I would burn kingdoms before I let anyone hurt you again, he whispered. Their bond snapped into place, not gentle, not slow. A force that changed the air around them. From that moment on, nothing could separate them. War came at dawn weeks later. The southern kingdom attacked, believing the storm wolf belonged to them by prophecy. Their armies crossed borders, wolves in armor marching with weapons dipped in silver. Mira stood at the front. Kael stood beside her. The enemy raised their swords. Mira raised the sky. Lightning split the clouds. Thunder crashed so loud it knocked soldiers off their feet. Wind tore through the battlefield, lifting wolves and tossing them aside like leaves. Rain turned into sharp ice, cutting through armor. Mira's wolf form shone bright white, massive and unstoppable. Kael shifted beside her, huge, dark, deadly. Together they tore through the battlefield, one storm made of two wolves. When the dust settled, the war was over. The Alpha War, the one that lasted generations, ended with a girl who once knelt in the snow believing she had no worth. The coronation came under a calm sky. Mira stood beside Kael as the crowned Storm Luna Queen. Her old pack knelt at the front, shaking. Her former bullies pressed their faces to the floor. Celine's eyes stayed down, her body trembling. Her father cried real tears, breaking open with regret. Children ran up to Mira without fear, touching her hands, her dress, her glowing wolf fur. Storm Queen, Wolf of Peace, please bless us. Mira smiled, lifting one child into her arms. Kael watched her with a softness no one else ever saw. The storm answered her heartbeat, but the man beside her answered something deeper. She looked over the hall, her voice full and steady. Once rejected, she said, now the wolf who ended a war. The hall rose in cheers. The sky outside lit up white lightning, gentle this time, blessing the world she had changed. If you enjoyed this story, hit like, subscribe, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps bring more powerful wolf stories to life.